Hey everybody, HomeSliceHenry here, and in today's video I'm going to be showcasing a spicy moveset choice that ended up bringing me a lot of success in the Ultra Fantasy Cup, Sludge on Galarian Weezing. Now Galarian Weezing has a massive amount of viable charge moves, Brutal Swing, Play Rough, Overheat, sometimes even Hyper Beam, but for this format I like Sludge, as it turns Galarian Weezing into a Fairy Killer. Galarian Weezing with Sludge can even beat Fairy Wind Meteor Mash Clefable. So without further ado, let's hop into the matches and check out Sludge Galarian Weezing in action in the Ultra Fantasy Cup. Hopping into the first match, leading Flygon into Giratina Altered. Immediate save switch into Galarian Weezing to check and see what their best response to a Fairy type is. My charge moves are actually walled by the Giratina, but the threat of a Brutal Swing or a Play Rough is enough to get them to switch out into Excadrill. No baits here, full sending the Overheat, opponent calls the bait, and they get one shot. My attack is now debuffed by 2 stages, opponent sends in a Waterfall Primarina, and now it's time for Sludge to get to work. Sludge is going to hit for super effective damage. As I mentioned, my attack is 2 stages debuffed by the Overheat, but as you can see, thanks to Fairy Wind, Sludge charges pretty quickly, and Galarian Weezing is able to reach 3 Sludges, pressuring either a shield or KOing the Primarina. Primarina gets the farm down. I'm just going to send in Flygon and sacrifice the Flygon because at this point, I can win the game with Clefable. They go for Disarming Voice, Flygon farming up. Opponent does not want to let me reach an Earth Power, so they're going to fire another Disarming Voice. That will be lethal. I can send in the Clefable. Clefable looking for the farm down, gets the farm down of the Primarina, and there's just not really anything that Giratina Altered can do here. I go for the Moonblast. That deals massive damage to the Giratina. And at this point, the writing is on the wall for this one. Clefable firing off the Meteor Mash. Meteor Mash will be no-shielded by my opponent. And that's a good game. Terrible lead in the next match, Flygon into Shadow Granbull. I save switch into Galarian Weezing, and it's actually a Snarl Granbull. Honestly, that's still fine, because I'm running Sludge on Galarian Weezing. Sludge deals massive damage to the Granbull, and I'm already at Sludge number 2. Opponent has a lot of energy here, they don't want to lose it. They're going to commit the shield, and I should be able to tank whatever they throw here. So I'm going to let this through. Opponent running Play Rough, that does a solid amount of damage. Opponent now sends in a Metagross. Opponent running some Spice, but we've got an Overheat for that. Opponent lets it go, and that's a full one-shot. In the back, opponent has Togekiss, so they're running ABA Fairy. I'm going to fire off the debuffed Sludge. My switch clock is up, so now I can send in Clefable. This backline does carry the 2 Fairy Pokemon with Sludge Galarian Weezing and Meteor Mash Clefable that are basically Fairy Killers themselves. So it's the Fairy types that beat other Fairy types. So I should be in a very comfortable position to close out this game. I am going to commit the shield because I can overfarm quite a bit. In comes the Granbull, and it's met with a loaded Meteor Mash. That's going to get rid of the Granbull. In comes the Togekiss, and Clefable able to close strong, taking down Togekiss and securing the win. We see the Core Breaker on the lead in the next match, Flygon into Shadow Alolan Sandslash. Now Sandslash is a bit uncomfortable for this line. I'm going to be staying in here with the Flygon, building up to the Earth Power, and baiting with the Dragon Claw. Dragon Claw bait into the Sandslash, does get shielded. Sandslash firing off the Ice Punch. This hits for double super effective damage, so I'm going to commit the shield. Farming up with the Flygon, going for the Ice Punch catch onto the Galarian Weezing, but no such luck. Sandslash fires off the Drill Run. I'm going to watch for a catch here. I'm expecting they'll try and catch my move, and they do. They send in Tapu Fini, and now it is Sludge time. If they go for the farm down here, I should be able to reach 3 Sludges, which will be enough to KO. As you can see, 2 Sludges come very close to KOing, but I don't have enough health remaining to Fairy Wind down, so I'm able to make it to a 3rd Sludge. This is quite nice, as now I will dictate switch advantage, but the unfortunate thing is that I am pretty weak to the Sandslash, and my opponent gets a Fairy Wind down with their own Clefable. So things going from bad to worse in this game, as my opponent is running a very difficult team for this team to handle. Meteor Mash does a lot of damage, and my opponent has the energy head start. I fire off the Meteor Mash, but they don't have to shield this. This is really not good for me. They're going to go for the Meteor Mash here, and honestly, at this point, I'm not really seeing a win con. I need so much energy on the Flygon. I'm going to farm up a bunch of energy. At this point, maybe a Dragon Claw plus a farm down is the win con. Dragon Claw doesn't KO here, and my opponent knows that. From here, I mean, I just don't really see a win con. I'm going to let this go. It is going to be the Meteor Mash. Opponent looking for the farm down. They send in the Sandslash. Wait, if this gets shielded, maybe there's a chance. Dragon Claw gets shielded. We have the Earth Power. This will one-shot. How healthy is the Clefable? Down goes Slash. In comes Clefable. Clefable with 1 HP takes the win. Picking up a positive lead in the next match, Flygon into Empoleon. Considering I have 2 fairy types in the back, I am very happy to catch the steel type on the lead. And the nice thing is, Flygon can win all even shield scenarios going straight Earth Power, so I don't even have to bait to win this matchup. Of course, if I do bait, I could win the 2s with more HP remaining, but honestly, it does feel a bit risky, so I am just going to be going straight for the Earth Power every single time, so that way, if my opponent decides to call it, I can punish them with a one-shot. I do get the defense debuff from the Earth Power. Ultimately, it's not going to affect this matchup too much, as I do still need to land the Earth Power to KO in the 2 shield, and I am able to get there. That is quite nice. I fire off the Earth Power, get the KO, opponent sends in Giratina, and I'm going to pivot into Weezing. Again, with this Weezing moveset, I'm walled here, but I'm counting on my opponent not knowing that. They go for the Shadow Ball. I'm just going to keep farming. Opponent tries to go for a catch, and they bring in their own Galarian Weezing. I'm firing off the Sludge, as I don't want to overheat just yet, because overheat will not one-shot. After landing a Sludge, now I can go for the overheat, and that's going to get them deep into the red. I farm up, make it to another Sludge, but I do run a very high-rank Galarian Weezing, so I end up losing CMP. That is a bit unfortunate. I'm going to send in Flygon. Flygon will be able to make the Dragon Claw. Now, this is double resisted, but their Weezing is very low. Dragon Claw gets the KO. In comes Clefable to match the Giratina origin. Giratina is going to be firing off the Shadow Ball. Shadow Ball connects onto Clefable, but Clefable makes the Moonblast. Fairy Wind just charges incredibly quickly, and Moonblast secures the KO on the Giratina origin. Picking up a tough lead in the next match, Flygon into Kommo-o. I save switch into Galarian Weezing, and my opponent will respond with Genesect. I'm going to go for a risky bait here, hoping my opponent respects the overheat, and they do. That is absolutely massive. And now I'm in a position where I can guaranteed take switch advantage. They can go for the Magnet Bomb, but Magnet Bomb importantly does not one-shot, and Fury Cutter is not going to be able to farm down. Even if they double shield here, an overheat at -2 attack is still going to be enough to one-shot Genesect. So I'm more than happy to commit a shield here. My opponent goes for another Magnet Bomb, as this debuffed overheat will still be lethal, hitting for double super effective damage onto the Genesect. In comes Kommo-o. Kommo-o, recognizing that my energy is not very useful versus them, they're going to get a big energy lead of their own. But the good news for me is I have switch advantage. I can now put Kommo-o aligned against Clefable, where I wall their energy. My opponent running an unorthodox moveset as well. They're running Flamethrower on the Kommo-o. I'm able to make it to the Meteor Mash. This only hits for neutral, but Meteor Mash is a pretty nice move. That's going to KO. In the back, there's a Waterfall Primarina, and I should be in a pretty good situation here. Firing off the Meteor Mash. Meteor Mash will connect onto the Primarina. Primarina cannot quite get the farm down. Again, having 2 Fairy Wind users in the back is so nice, as it's just lightning fast charge moves on this team. We see the Dream lead in the next match, Flygon into Melmetal. Opponent will need to immediately save switch out. They save switch into their own Flygon. I'm going to stay in here and fire off a Dragon Claw to get some chip damage, and then I'm going to send in Clefable. I've now dealt quite a lot of damage. I can send in Clefable, and Clefable will be able to absorb 1 Earth Power. They go for the Earth Power. Clefable able to tank. I'm looking to overfarm and go for the Meteor Mash before they make it to their next charge move here. Meteor Mash into Flygon will be shielded. Opponent making a play for switch advantage. If I give up switch, I need to get both shields to do so. That's a very nice bait by my opponent, so they are clearly looking to make a play for switch, but as long as I get both their shields, I don't mind giving up switch for the express reason that I can just overheat the Melmetal with my Galarian Weezing. So they go for the Earth Power, that's fine by me. I can send in the Weezing, I'll get the farm down before they make an Earth Power, and now they can't really afford to bring in Melmetal anywhere. They're either getting overheated or Earth Powered. In the back, opponent is running Kyurem and their core broken. by the Galarian Weezing. I can fire off the Overheat, that does big damage onto the Kyurem, and I make it to the debuff Sludge. This is debuffed, but it will still be lethal, and then I can just send in the Flygon. And oh boy, this Melmetal is in an incredibly tough spot. I'm firing off the Earth Power, no shields remaining for the opponent, and the Earth Power deals massive damage. Let's see what the Melmetal moveset is here. Opponent running double Iron Bash, which is extremely spammy, but they cannot make enough charge moves. We see a tricky lead in the next match, Flygon into Steelix. Both Pokemon are hitting each other for super effective damage here. I'm going to stay in this matchup to start. Opponent will go for the Psychic Fangs as soon as they get it. Flygon already pretty frail, so I'm going to bank the energy and reset the debuff by save switching into Galarian Weezing. Weezing farming up, Steelix staying in here and going for the Psychic Fangs. Now this is a non-Shadow Steelix, meaning that even if I land an Overheat is not going to be enough to one-shot here. I'm full sending the Overheat, no point in baiting, opponent lets it through, but as you can see Steelix able to hang on, withstanding the damage. And I'm going to need to throw another Overheat to get rid of them. I'm looking to overfarm as much as possible. Their Dragon Tails are double resisted, still not doing damage even though my defense is double debuffed. Overheat will get the KO. I'm now at -4. I'm going to bank some energy and we're going to have a Clefable Mirror. I'm farming up and firing off the Meteor Mash as soon as I get there. My opponent of course has the energy head start, but I've saved energy on my Galarian Weezing. They're going to be firing off the Meteor Mash. I know that I can tank a Meteor Mash. And the nice thing is they can't really farm down, so they're going to be forced to empty their energy. That works for me, and now I can wait my timer and then send back in the Galarian Weezing. Now this is going to be very close to double Sludge range. If it's not, then I can just go for the Overheat, as Overheat does do slightly more damage. It looks like they will barely be able to tank the second Sludge, so just to get rid of this, I'm going to go for the Overheat. Overheat will get the KO in the back. It's a Snarl Granbull, and I can beat a Snarl Granbull. If it was Charm, that would have been a bit scary, but I've reset the debuff again on my Galarian Weezing, and now I can just fire off these Earth Powers into the Granbull from the Flygon. Earth Power gets no shielded as the opponent tries to call the bait, and that's just going to be game over here as Flygon has way too much energy. Even a double resisted Dragon Claw will be enough to take down the Granbull. Moving into the next match, hitting Flygon into Giratina Origin. I'm going to save switch into Galarian Weezing, and my opponent responds with a Galarian Weezing of their own. I'm going to fire off the Sludge right off the bat, as I know I do need some chip damage before I can connect with the Overheat. Honestly, I should probably just go for 2 Sludges and then the Overheat here, but I decided to go for the Overheat. That does massive damage, but I can't really farm down here, as my attack is 2 stages debuffed, and of course the Fairy Winds are resisted. They're firing off charge move after charge move here. Looks like my opponent is running Brutal Swing and Play Rough potentially, so they are walled by Galarian Weezing. I'm firing off the Sludge. That will be lethal, and here I make a crucial mistake. What I should have done was immediately pivoted into Clefable or potentially back into the Flygon to deny them energy, but for some reason, I choose to stay in here and keep switch. But as you're going to see, giving this much energy to Giratina Origin is a massive problem. So this is an important moment to just realize, don't make the mistake that I did. Giving Giratina Origin 100 energy basically means you're just going to lose. Here, I mean, I'm in such a tough spot. I have to try and call a bait. They do actually bait, which is good. I can now fire off the Meteor Mash, but I'm in a lot of trouble. They commit the shield. I'm sending in Flygon, and they do have enough for the Shadow Ball here. I'm going to commit the shield, and I need a perfect overfarm on the Flygon. Overfarming to the max and winning CMP against this Giratina Origin. Dragon Claw will be lethal in the back. It's a Steelix, and Earth Power does not one-shot here. It does a lot of damage, but it does not one-shot. Opponent will commit the shield. We do not get a defense drop, and that's a bit unfortunate. I will be able to survive a Psychic Fangs here if it is the Psychic Fangs, and it is. I'm barely able to hang on and make it to the Earth Power. Earth Power will connect. I'm going to send in Clefable. Clefable, farm it up. And I desperately need a Moonblast to be enough to KO here, but I just don't think it is, and I can't get to 2 Meteor Mashes. So I'm going to fire off the Moonblast. Clefable, please. It's not going to be enough. And as you see, Steelix is able to outpace, and I'm going to lose this game with a fraction of HP remaining on the Steelix. All in all, I think that Sludge is a genuinely viable moveset option for Galarian Weezing in the Ultra Fantasy Cup. The moveset on Galarian Weezing is definitely dependent on the teammates that you have around it, but I think that Sludge provides a really nice surprise factor and as well allows Galarian Weezing to retain that Fairy Killer status, whereas if it's not running Sludge, it does end up losing to Clefable, which is a bit unfortunate when your Poison type is losing to one of the best Fairy types in the format. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you're enjoying the content, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And a special thank you as always to our members here on YouTube. The support you guys provide is sincerely appreciated. So thank you guys oh so very much. And until next time, I've been HomeSliceHenry.